Ahoy, this is Zdenka. How to color grade lock or flat profile in Adobe Premiere Pro all the way. And I'm talking no LUTs, no presets, no help doing it from the ground, from the zero, from the scratch. There are several ways of doing it. And in today's video, I'm going to be sharing the way I do my own color grading. I have placed timestamps below the video in a video description in case you need to return to certain chapters later on. That way it's going to be much easier. What is lock or flat profile? When you are filming on your mirrorless camera or smartphone, you are most likely filming in standard picture profile. That means that your video is very contrasty and is very colorful. The problem is that if you are going to film on a very sunny day, you will have a hard time trying to make the video look good. You will end up with blown up highlights. There's simply not enough of data to work with. So solution to that would be filming in lock or flat profile. What is that? A lock profile or logarithmic profile is a color profile or gamma curve which has a wide dynamic and tonal range. It means that all data when it comes to highlights and shadows are there. They are not last like they would be in a regular standard profile. The video you will take in lock profile will look very washed out. There will be no contrast and almost no color. This has to be color graded in post. Flat profile is not lock profile. The camera turns down contrast, sharpness, and saturation, so you get this flat looking profile which also retains lots of data in highlights and shadows. It is a bit easier to color grade. Where to find it on your camera or smartphone? Each camera is different. Some cameras have it already built in, others don't. I have Sony a7S III which already has it built in. I just go to settings and select lock profile. Next, I have Canon M6 Mark II, which didn't have this profile in the menu, however, I did install it myself. The same thing goes if you have Canon M50, pretty much the same. You can download the free profile from Technicolor and then just install it on your camera. I'm going to link it below in the video description. So now when I go to picture profiles, it is there. If you are filming on your smartphone, you can film in Filmic Pro app, which allows you to film in flat or 8-bit lock version 2 profile or newly added 10-bit lock version 3 profile. I also like to use the ProTake app, which allows me to film in lock C profile. Simply enable and you are ready to go. Let's talk about LUTs. You can do two things to fix this video. You could apply LUT. What is that? LUT stands for lookup table. Think of it as a preset. Those are already pre-made looks which, when you apply over your lock footage in programs like Adobe Premiere Pro or DaVinci Resolve, it will give you a certain look. Then you can color correct that further. I have made a few of those myself. I'm gonna link it below the video in the video description. The outdoor pack is coming up soon as well. Or you could forget the LUT and color grade your footage from the ground zero, from scratch, from nothing. Some of you might get confused because I said two different terms. One is color correcting and the other one is color grading. What is the difference? Well, very simply put, the word correct means that we are going to fix some sort of a problem. So color correction is meant to make the video look exactly the way your human eyes see. The right white balance, the right colors. Color grading, on the other hand, is adjusting color and contrast to give the artistic feel. This is where you change the video to get a certain visual tone or mood. Let's go ahead and open up Adobe Premiere Pro, which is my preferred program. Let's go from editing to color. This is where all the work will happen. First of all, you have to ensure that you have correct Lumetri Scopes selected. Go to Windows, make sure your Lumetri Scopes are checked. Somewhere in this area, I'm going to right-click and pull out Vector Scope and Parade. Why do you want to look at these? Parade, which is the left one, will show you everything when it comes to brightness. The 0 line is where your blacks are. The 100 line is where your pure whites are. So if I'm going to stretch the image down until black hits black, this is how it's going to look like. Let's look at the other scope, which is the Vector Scope. The scope shows colors. Center is where the gray is, and if you are going towards the edge, this is where it gets more saturated. Reds are here, magenta, blues, cyan, green, and yellow. So now that we have our setup in place, first thing we need to do is color correct the video, meaning, as I said before, that we need to get the video to look like what our eyes are normally seeing, to get the right brightness, the right contrast, the right colors before we actually start color grading, giving it a certain tone and feel. You can do it two ways. Either do it in color wheels and match, where you would be stretching shadows, midtones, or highlights to pull these sliders up and down. Or you can do it in basic correction panel, which I personally prefer. I'm going to drag the blacks down until I see that some pixels from my image are almost touching 0. Then I'm going to drag the white until I see that again a few pixels almost hit 100. Every video you're going to work on might not have something white or something black in a frame. Don't only look at the numbers, but rather how the image you see really looks like. For example, in this video, I cannot go all the way up until it hits 100 pure white. It will look blown out, so I'm going to keep it just under 100. Next, I'm going to drag the shadows down a little bit until I see that this looks balanced. To give it more contrast, I'm going to go to the next section, which is curves. Here we can control overall contrast or individual colors. Here are your whites. When you drag the curve above the line, it is going to get lighter. Under the line, it's going to get darker. Here are your reds. Drag reds above the curve and it's going to get more red. Drag it under the curve and you are going to take away the reds. And the same thing goes with the greens and blues. We are going to select whites because we are going to be adding more contrast to the video. We are going to be creating what is called the S-curve. I'm going to add 2 points to the curve. One here in the lower portion, which I'm going to drag down. The image is going to get darker. I'm going to drag just a little bit. You simply don't want to overdo it. Next point, I'm going to create at the top and drag it upwards until I create this nice smooth curve. It will add more brightness. The image has now more depth. You want to double check that the blacks are not hitting the 0 line. That will mean that it's crashing the blacks. If that happens, just go back to the basic panel and lift the black tiny bit. And the same goes with white. If you see it way too much on the 100 line, then just bring the whites a little bit down. You just need to go back and forth until you are happy with what you see on the screen. Saturation would be the next step. I like to add a little bit of it, so I'm going to increase it a little bit to about 109.7 in this case. I'm going to keep an eye on the vector scopes. When you see that the color is going way too much out, then it is way too much. But also I'm using my eyes, looking at my skin and pillow here. I don't want to look orange and I don't want the pillow to be oversaturated. Next thing we are going to correct is white balance, and if I'm not wearing something white on me, I actually always have in my bag somewhere a piece of paper. So I pull it out and I just hold it in front of me like this. This will help me later on in the video because I can set the correct white balance. Or sometimes it's gonna help me if I accidentally forget to set the correct white balance in a camera, like when it's cloudy and you have it accidentally set to sunny. To fix the white balance, I'm going to use the white balance selector and click on something white in the frame. And now the white balance has been adjusted. If I feel that it is way too much orange, I just adjust it a tiny bit more to the left. Again, use your judgment, use your eyes. If you run into a situation that you have no white paper with you and you're not wearing anything white, but in your frame is a person, what you can do, you can select just the skin to correct the skin tone. I'm going to go to editing, effects, create ellipse mask, and only select the face, the skin. Take a look at the vector scopes. Right on this line we have skin line. If it is going too much to the side, then it means it has to be corrected to bring it back on the line. I'm going to go to hue versus hue curve. I'm going to click on yellow and red, and I will drag the between up and move left or right until I get most of it perfectly on the top left line in vector scopes. Now I'm going back to effects and delete the mask, and now we should be seeing the right skin tone. Now we are ready to start playing with the video to create a unique look, the tone, the mood. Let's go to editing and add another Lumetri color effect. This is so we don't mess up the whole color correction we did up to now. This will be strictly color grading. This way, if you do end up not liking the whole look at all, you can just delete and start fresh without having to do all the steps we did until now. This would be a disaster, so you do want to open up another Lumetri color effect. To keep track which one is which, you can rename them. So right click on the top one, which is our first one, rename, and type in log color correction. Right click the lower one and rename to grading. Now you will know which one is which. When it comes to color grading, there are no rules. It really depends on what look, what unique tone you want to create to your image, what you have in your head, and you just have to transfer it on the computer. So let me show you what I would do with this video, and let me show you all the panels you can use or what I'm using to help it. First, I'm going to work with colors in RGB Curves panel. I'm going to start on the reds line, create 3 points which represent shadows, midtones, and highlights, and slightly drag them up or down. I'm going to start with midtones. When I drag them up, I'm going to add red a little bit. When I drag them down, I can reduce the reds. So I'll play until I see something I like. I can do the same with highlights and shadows. If I really want to remove reds from shadows, I'm going to drag the corner point to the right, or if I want to add more red, I'm going to drag it up to the left. Next, I'm going to play with green. It's the same thing. I'm literally letting my senses, my eyes navigate me to come up with the look. There are no rules. Lastly, I'm going to play with blues. I could also play with whites again. If I want to add more contrast to it, I can by dragging the midtones up or down. If there is a certain color I want to change, for example, if I'm filming outdoors in the nature and I want the greens to be deeper, darker greens, this is where all is happening. If I drag the whole line up and down, you can see how crazily the colors are changing. Well, I don't want to do that. I'm going to select, for example, just the greens on the pillow. So I'll click around the green and then drag the green up or down depending what I want it to change it to. If I feel that the color is still a little bit too strong, like those green pillows, I can definitely turn them down a little bit. I can tone it down. So I'm gonna go to Hue versus Saturation panel. Here again, I'm going to select the green on the pillow and drag it down to reduce the saturation a bit. Now it is not so punchy, not so strong. It's more blended in the background. Sometimes I run into problems when there is a little bit different color in certain areas in a frame, like for example the wall here. I see a little spot here which is a little bit too red and I want to fix that. So what I can do, I can go to HSL Secondary. It is not going to affect all the colors in a frame, but only the colors you select. I'm going to click the color selector, the pen with the plus sign, and click on the problem area. As it is quite difficult to see what I selected, I'm going to click on the color gray, and now I can only see those colors selected. And then with the arrows, I just drag left and right to make the selector larger or smaller. Now that I have it selected, I have to make an important step. Go to Refine and push the denoise and blur all the way to the right, all the way to maximum. If you don't do that, once you change the color, you will end up with very ugly rough edge. Now I'll uncheck the color gray and go to the correction section where I will correct the problem. So I'm going to move the temperature to the blue a bit and perhaps reduce the saturation a bit as well. And now there is no more colorful part of the wall. There is one more panel which I like to use pretty much every time when I want the video to have a very clean, professional look, that will be the very last step. This is when I want the blacks to be pure black and white to be pure white. I'm going to go to Luma versus Saturation panel, select the blacks, click here and drag it down. Select the whites and drag it down as well. You will basically desaturate the colors. Sometimes you're not going to see much difference. Sometimes you will see a huge difference. I got into a habit of doing this every single time to see if it helps to clean up the look a little bit. And that will be the way I color grade my videos. Like I said, there are no rules. You can completely use your imagination, play with the colors, put on some calm music, go and have fun with color grading your video. Create something unique, some different tone, some mood, whatever goes. Well, this was a long tutorial. Hit the thumbs up if you found it informative and useful. Subscribe to future videos like these. And if you have any questions, comments, or simply want to say hi or suggest topic for future videos, you know what to do. You can leave it in a comment section below, and I'll see you, my friends, in the next video. Ciao. Ahoj.